The In Conversation podcast series with author Nigel Beckles.
Welcome to the podcast.
Please like the podcast and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.
Have you experienced several failed relationships or been through a divorce? How can you avoid making the same mistakes again? How to avoid making the big relationship mistakes is out now.
Hi, my name is Nigel Beckles. My new book is packed with practical and common sense strategies that you can use to make better relationship choices.
Now you can discover the dangerous myths about love. If your relationship expectations are realistic, why you could be falling in love for all the wrong reasons.
How to avoid making the big relationship mistakes. It's a book that could change your life.
Available from www.relationshipmistakesbook.com and amazon.co.uk. Kindle version also available.
Get ready for takeoff.
Welcome back to my In Conversation podcast series. My guest for this episode is an advocate for survivors of narcissistic abuse in relationships, Marcia Hilton. Greetings, Marcia. Welcome to my podcast series. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much, Nigel. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I understand you have been in an abusive relationship. So how did you meet your abusive ex-partner?
Right. Well, to be honest, I've actually been in two abusive relationships. The first one was when I was very young, when I first left school, and so that was the father of my children. Many years later, fast forward, I met the latest partner about 16 years ago, and it was through mutual friends. And that's how I met him. Very sociable, likable person. And back then, he seemed like a really nice person.
So how long were you together?
At that time, I think it was about 2 years.
And when did you realize you were in an abusive relationship?
At that point, I didn't. We then split. And that was very drama-filled with lots of other women and all of that. I wasn't actually aware at that point that he was a narcissist. But he left when we split. He immigrated, went abroad, lived there for about 15, 16 years. And then more recently, about 2014, 15, he sought me out. Came back to the UK and did his best to find me. So it was contacting all friends and other family members, and to everybody else, and even to me, it was like, wow, this guy's really on a mission to find me. And he did in the end. I was like, oh, you just popped up again after 15, 16 years. And in my head, it was water under the bridge. We, I was cool with just being friends and whatever. So he had, I gave him my number and we kept in touch. But then it was like every day we were in touch. He could have gone back to the States. He was living in the States now. So he would call every day. And before I knew it, we were in this long distance relationship. Now he would come over to the UK more than I would go there. But when he did come, he was very giving. Everybody thought he was amazing. He treated me like a queen. He was always bringing gifts. It was, and I thought I'd met my soulmate. I thought, the second time round he's mature. We've both grown somewhat, and it was all good. It was all good. During that period, I noticed that there were certain things that he wasn't liking too much. So I had some friends. Some of them were male that I'd had for a long time, and he didn't like that. And we'd make a big fuss about the fact that I had male friends, and he felt that it was undermining him. So we had a bit of a disagreement, but eventually he wore me down to the point where I ended up losing my friends. Then he was trying to get us to have a joint bank account because we were planning on getting married as well. He asked me to marry him. Yeah, let's do this. We're grown adults. I knew him from before, so it seemed fine. But he was quite controlling. Lots of different things would happen. It was all very subtle. This little undermining of me So if we went out for a meal in front of friends or whatever, he'd be like, why are you eating the food like that? And I'd be looking at him like, why are you even saying that? Or I don't like that dress that you've got on. And it was like, well, last week, fantastic dress. What is wrong? So it was little things like that that he would do. And I would just, to keep the peace, I wouldn't actually say anything until we got back home or whatever. And I'd say, well, why did he say that? And then he'd deny that he'd said it. I excuse me, booked holidays, surprise for his birthday abroad. It was just in Europe. And so he came to the UK. Then we went across to, for the surprise holiday. And I remember, I am a little bit lastminute.com. And I remember I hadn't actually changed up any euros for myself. So when we got to the airport, I was at the kiosk changing up some money, and he was like, what are you doing? So I said, I'm just changing some money. And he said, don't worry, that's fine. You don't need to do that. And I said, no, it's cool. I'll just make sure I've got some money. And he insisted, he went on that much that I didn't actually. So in the end, I thought, I didn't change it. I said, okay, he's my man. That's fine. So I didn't have any euros with me. When we went on holiday, he controlled everything, even to the point if we went for a meal and I wanted a glass of wine with my meal, I couldn't even have that. It was like, no, you have a soft drink. I was like, what? I'm a grown woman. So I ended up having to, I don't even know why I did it, but I kind of sneaked to the, the hotel reception and changed some money for myself because I wasn't really liking what was happening here. Then he decided that he had flu, which he didn't, but he decided he had flu and he spent most of the holiday in bed and really spoilt it. Really spoilt the holiday, to be honest. So it was little things like this. And he actually did tell me right at the beginning of the second time around that he was a narcissist. Now, I didn't actually get it. And in my head, a narcissist was, those overt people that would be, very extra and full of themselves and all of that. So that's not how he presented. So I couldn't kind of link that with what he was saying to me. So what I did say to him at the time was, oh, well, we're all on the spectrum to some degree and you don't come over as that. So I was completely naive to the fact that there was such a thing as a covert, undercover or under the radar narcissist. So, but it was just little things that he was doing that was really undermining. And I would like to think that I'm quite a, independent, not a stupid woman, but I actually found myself trying to kind of play catch up with him all the time, trying to please him all the time, because it was almost as if he was becoming very disapproving of everything. Nothing was ever right. So I was trying to, play catch up, make sure everything was right for him and stuff. And trying to appease him all the time. And I wasn't sure why I was doing that. And then I would have these niggling doubts in my head thinking, am I even doing the right thing? And when he would come and go, we would speak every day. So when we reconnected the second time, we were together about three and a bit years. And there wasn't a day since we reconnected that we did not speak. If it wasn't via phone, it would be via FaceTime. And I remember once having this conversation with him, and then he went, and I just had this feeling that I need to end this relationship. And I was like, why am I even thinking that? He hasn't done anything. There wasn't anything obvious that he was doing. But then he just became quite cool, very much saying things to me that weren't very, very nice. And I remember he would say things to me like, because he cheated in the past, and first time round, he'd say things like, oh, well, once a cheat, always that. So I kind of wondered whether he was actually seeing somebody else. And I asked him outright. He never did give me a proper answer to that. Yeah. And I think one of the things that he did do to me, which actually devastated me, was, as I said to you, we were planning to get married. He didn't want my family involved. He wanted to pay for everything. That's what he said. He said, I will, I don't want you, your family will do it. And I was saying, but my mom, she would like to be involved. That's what we do. And he was insisting that we didn't do that. So anyway, I'd already scouted where we were going to get married. And he actually sent some money for me to, to go pay the deposit for the wedding venue. And when I went to collect the money, because it was through one of those MoneyGram things, I wasn't able to get the money. And I remember thinking, that's really odd. So I actually contacted him because he was back in the States, and I was saying to him, oh, there's a problem with the money. You need to look into it. They said it's from your end. So he said, okay, I'll have a look. And anyway, he got back to me a little bit later and basically said that the company that he'd used to send the money had said that I was trying to defraud him out of his money, and they were trying to protect him. So I was the one that was the aggressor. I was the one that was trying to, steal all his money, basically, is what he came back and told me. And I was like, well, why would they even think that? I was really rocked by it, because I think that was my Achilles heel, because he knew that I was a bit of a spender as well. So I think he used that, because it turned out in the end that he'd done that himself. So this was something that he'd set up, and I didn't know until sort of after that he would do something like that. And I couldn't actually get my head around the fact that somebody who claims to love you would do something like that. And then the final straw came when we were planning to go on another holiday. He came and then told me the day that he arrived that his son was ill, and that he may have to go back at any time. So I said, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. We planned to go to London, actually. We were going to do, had some trips sorted and planned. I'd paid for everything, ready to go on this, just go see my family as well while I was there. And he asked me how much money I had in my account. And I was like, oh, why are you asking me how much money I've got? So I told him, and then he went into this rage and said, well, if you didn't have enough money, why didn't you tell me? And you never talked to me. I'm going back to the States. It just didn't seem to, the punishment didn't fit the crime. And I was looking at him thinking, what are you talking about? I've just spent all this money booking hotels, booking trips out, booking this, that, the other. And you're just going to go back to this. He'd only been in the country like 2 days. And he just went cold as ice. And he just said, I'm going. And that's what he did. And I was like, I don't understand what is happening here. Why are you doing this? And I'm trying to get him to talk to me. And he's like, he made up his mind, got his tickets changed. And he went back that day. So part of me wonders whether he'd already planned that already to go back then, because I couldn't understand how he'd got it sorted so quickly. But he did. That's what he did. He left me basically with me having to explain to everybody that this has happened. He's gone back. Just left me like that. And I was really humiliated and embarrassed by it. And I just didn't understand what was happening. So I was calling him when he got back to find out what is this. And I said, well, are we done? What's going on? But he never said that. He said no, but that we could maybe just give ourselves a bit of a break and revisit in a couple of months. And I'm scratching my head thinking, I don't understand what's going on here. And then he would say things to me like, do you know what? I could just slap you. And I'd be like, how dare you even say that to me? Why? I need to know what's happening here. But he never did. And that was it. I tried and talked to him, and he would speak to me, but it was really cold and very sort of like 1 and 2 words and syllables that he'd say to me, and it was like really cold. And I was very, very upset, and more than upset, I was devastated because I didn't know what was happening. Felt very lost, very like, are we not supposed to be getting married? What is happening? So I was left with this confusion. I didn't know what was happening. And then I happened to stumble, about maybe a couple of weeks after he'd gone back, I stumbled across an article about narcissism. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, he did say he had that, so I read that.
He received a diagnosis confirming officially that he was a narcissist from who?
The military, because he was actually in the military. And because he had PTSD and he had some various injuries as well, that he'd been retired. That's why he was able to travel as much as he wanted, really. He was retired from the military. And that's where he got his diagnosis, because I think they have to see, in order to get their benefits and whatever, they have to see regularly psychiatrists and psychologists and whatever. That's where he got his diagnosis. And he would tell me that. And that was when I had the light bulb moment, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this man, I am being emotionally abused and had no idea that that was what was happening to me all this time over the 3 years that we were together. He just abused me emotionally. I didn't even know who I was anymore. I mean, I was manifesting physical illness, things that I've never had before, things that doesn't even run in our family or anything like that. And I realize now that a lot of that was down to the fact that I was so stressed emotionally, and things were manifesting itself physically for me. But that was the time when I just thought, oh my God, everything then started to make sense. It was a light bulb moment for me. It made sense. It got to the point where I was reading everything that I could, everything around narcissism, because I couldn't believe that this is what had just happened to me. And I know it might sound a bit vague, but he was mentally and emotionally eroding who I was. I didn't have the energy and the capacity to do the things that I used to do. I was always quite a switched on person, could multitask, do all kinds of stuff, and I just did not have the energy to do anything. But everything was about him. It was almost like he became my God in a way, because it was like I was trying to do everything for him. And I guess that's kind of what he wanted anyway. I think once I started to get that information, everything made sense. And then I emailed him actually, and basically said to him that I was done, and that he had, he'd left all his things were still here. So I ended up packing everything up. And I remember taking them to a charity shop with my engagement rings, because I had about 4. I mean, this man used to bombard me with presents. I had, anything I wanted, he'd give it to me, he'd buy me stuff. So I had all of these things that actually meant nothing, and I was thinking, God, I'm in love with somebody that doesn't exist. This is not who he said he is. This is not the person that I think I know. And looking back, I think he was testing to see what I knew about the condition, because I think if anybody in their right mind, somebody says that they have that, they usually would be running in the opposite direction. So I think perhaps he was actually testing the waters to see what I actually knew from what I didn't. And unfortunately for me, I just didn't get it.
Yeah, but that is not unusual in terms of not getting it, because in my experience, people who have been subjected to narcissistic abuse in relationships, they tend to do their research in the aftermath, because they're trying to work out what happened. Before my experiences, I didn't know the word narcissist, let alone how to spell it. It's only in the aftermath that people often start researching, because they want to kind of figure out, well, what happened? What was this all about? And then on top of that, of course, there are often consequences, not only your health, because what you were describing earlier would be described as psychosomatic. So basically the mind-body connection. So, if you're stressed out mentally and emotionally, eventually it's going to start showing up in your body.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
Marcia Hilton continues her story in Abusive Relationships, episode 12.
Please like the podcast and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Please join me for another In Conversations podcast very soon for more interesting and entertaining discussions. Stay safe.
Please like the podcast and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.